Hello everyone, this is Sana Parveen here, and once again, welcome back to my channel Sana's Biochemistry. This is day 9th of our 45 days NEET practice session, in which, as you all know, that in our videos we cover the biology part related to the NEET examination, and in each of our videos we solve 15 questions from our a previous year NEET question paper. So this is day 9 and let us begin with the questions. As you all know that the way that we solve our questions is we're going to read out the question, we read out the answers, we go for the option explanation and why is that the particular answer. Okay. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do subscribe to the channel. And we have got the first question as match the items given in column 1 with those in column 2 and select the correct option given below. And the options in the columns are column 1 functions are given and column 2 parts of the excretory system. In this, A is ultrafiltration, concentration of urine, transport of urine, storage of urine. In the other column, we have got the options to be Henle's loop, ureter, urinary bladder, Malpighian corpuscle, proximal convoluted tubule. Okay. So when you look at the options which are given to us in column number 1 and column number 2, we need to match them and look for the correct options here. If I talk about ultrafiltration, we need to first understand what is ultrafiltration. It is the filtration of very fine particles. The particles are very fine and of the weight which is less than 68,000 daltons. 68,000 daltons, when the molecule has got a weight less than this, then they are filtered through Malpighian corpuscles. Okay, now what is this Malpighian corpuscles? It is an excretory structure of most of the insects, including cockroaches. So ultrafiltration is going to be what? It is going to be Malpighian corpuscle is the correct match. Okay, the next one. If we talk about concentration of urine, definitely see what anything that is concentrated, that means it has got less water into it. Concentrated means less water into it. Diluted means more water into it. So if your urine is concentrated, that means it has got more solute into it than the solvent, which is nothing but the water. Okay. Concentration of urine, it refers to water absorption from glomerular filtrate. So you have got some filtrate. Okay. So you have got in your hand glomerular filtrate. And from this filtrate, what we are doing is we are taking out the water. Okay, we're taking out the water as a result of hyperosmolarity in the mechanism that is there, which is called as counter current mechanism. So concentration of urine, people, is related to Henle's loop, the Henle's loop. So glomerular filtrate is there. You're going to go for concentration of urine in which the counter current mechanism is there, and the correct match is Henle's loop. Next, if I see transport of urine is a very simple option given to us. It is nothing but with the ureter is the correct match. And the last one is going to be storage of urine. Definitely we know it happens in the urinary bladder. Okay. Last one, which is given to us as PCT, which is proximal convoluted tubule. The function of PCT is to reabsorb most of the filtered Na plus ions. Okay, we have got Na plus ions. If you need to reabsorb all those Na plus ions in order to deliver only small amount of Na plus ion should flow forwards to the downstream sites. When I want only few Na plus ions to flow downstream, then I have what? Then I have to do reabsorption, which is nothing but the function of PCT. So if you see in here, we need to match and see. Ultrafiltration A goes with Malfigent Buell 4. So we have A and D. We need to go for comparison, A and D. Then we have got B, concentration of urine. Okay. Concentration of urine goes with 1. That is Henle's loop. That means this is our correct option. C, transport of urine is with the help of ureter, and storage of urine is in the urinary bladder. So our correct option is going to be option number D. Okay, we're now going to move on to our next question. This was question number 1. Next question, let us just begin with it. A woman has a X-linked condition on one of the X chromosome. So there's a lady who has got a X-linked condition on one of her X chromosome. The chromosome can be inherited by. For this, we need to understand what is happening. So there's a lady. Okay, so there's a lady, and this lady, we know in the females we have got the genotype to be X and X. Okay, now when we say the condition is linked to X, that means what we can possibly write as, let us write this as X dash X. Okay, this chromosome has got certain conditions related to it. When this lady produces gametes, she is going to produce X dash and X. Okay, now this lady is either going to produce a female daughter, okay, a daughter or a son. She's going to produce a daughter or a son. Okay, now we cannot be very sure. It's like flipping up a coin, probability. This X dash can go with the girl and this X dash can also go with the boy. It's a 50-50 chance. And then if it's a girl, the X chromosome is going to come from the father side, okay, and the Y chromosome is going to again come from the father side. Okay, so in the conclusion to this, a woman has a X-linked condition on one of her X chromosomes. This chromosome can be inherited by both of them, by the boy and the girl. So the answer is going to be by both the son and the daughter. So our correct option is option number 2, both son and daughters. Let us move on with the third question here. AGGTAT-CGCAT is a sequence from the coding strand of a gene. What will be the corresponding sequence of the transcribed mRNA? Okay, so we are given with a sequence and we need to give the sequence for the mRNA. We know there's a major difference between DNA and RNA, people, and the difference we need to see in terms of the base pairs. So DNA we have got ATGC, but in RNA we have got AUGC. Okay, so if I am making the RNA from the DNA, definitely people, we will be replacing the T with the U. You need to replace the T with the U. Rest of the sequence is common. Okay, there is no much difference into it. When I write the sequence in here, which I'm going to write AGGTAT-CGCAT. Okay, I'm going to write the sequence and instead of T, I have to write U. So AGG, instead of T comes U, instead of TU, okay, and ACGCNA. The sequence, people, we need to match and see where is it. AGGUAU CGCAU. So that is the first option. Okay, the first one itself is the correct answer. Our answer to this question is going to be option number A. Okay, rest of the answers are definitely wrong because they're not matching up with what we have got. Okay, next question, question number 4 is given to us, and let us just quickly see the question. Match the items given in column 1 with those in column 2. Okay, and then we need to go for the matching part of it. Column 1 has proliferative phase, secretory phase, menstruation. In the next one, column 2, we have got breakdown of endometrial lining, follicular phase and luteal phase. So this is a question from menstruation. It's a question from menstrual cycle. Okay, let us just match this up. Menstruation, everyone knows it is breaking of the endometrial lining. So if I draw that and tell you, I'm going to draw that and show this is the uterus. I don't know, I've selected a pen and no, crap. Okay, this is the uterus, and then the endometrial lining is thickened up every month so as to prepare the body of the female for pregnancy. Okay, but when the pregnancy is not happening, this endometrial lining is getting shed off from the uterus because it is the lady is not pregnant and the lining is no more required, and this lining goes out of the body, which is nothing but the menstruation, which is the breakdown of the endometrial lining. Second one, if we see, we have got to decide between this. Okay, so I'm going to give you a stuff for remembering. This is secretary Lena, file please. Secretary Lena, file please. Okay, for menstruation, you need to remember this. Secretary Lena, file please. That means S, that is the secretory phase. S is for secretory phase, is with the luteal phase. Okay, and the next one, follicular phase, is with the is with a proliferative phase. Okay, so when we match them up, secretory phase is the luteal phase and proliferative phase is nothing but the follicular phase. Okay, proliferative is follicular. Our answer to this question, if we match and see, is going to be, okay, I'm going to now explain why is luteal phase also called a secretory phase. Okay, why is luteal phase also called a secretory phase? So I'm going to erase everything that I've written here. We are on to a topic in which we are going to see why is the secretory phase also called as the luteal phase. Okay, so in this phase, that is secretory or luteal phase, in this phase, there is secretion of progesterone hormone. Progesterone, the female hormone. In this, there is release of progesterone hormone from where? From corpus luteum. From corpus luteum. Okay. And then we also have secretion of a clear fluid. A clear fluid. Okay. So, it is the corpus luteum who is doing the secretion of progesterone. Okay, so luteal phase, secretory phase. Okay, I hope everyone is getting it. Next one, if I see, is the luteal phase. Okay, we're done with that luteal phase. Then we have got the proliferative phase. Proliferative phase, we need to see, it is also called as follicular phase. Okay, now it is an amazing correlation. Whenever there is whenever there is a mature ovarian follicle, okay, we have what? Mature ovarian follicle. Okay, the follicle is released. Okay, the follicle is released during ovulation. At the same time, the uterus starts preparing itself, starts to thicken up the endometrial lining. When the thickening of the endometrial lining is happening, people, the follicle is released and the uterus is preparing itself. Okay, preparation. Preparing means it is proliferating. Proliferating is to multiply. Okay, so that is the reason why when follicle is released after ovulation or during ovulation, at that time the uterus prepares itself by this proliferation. So the answer is going to be here. I'm going to erase and we're going to see menstruation, breakdown of endometrial lining. So C is 1. Then we have got the next one as proliferative phase is called as the follicular phase, and secretory phase, people, is called as the luteal phase. Okay, so when we match and see, we have got A as 3, B as A as, okay, we have got proliferative to be follicular, A as 2, B as 3, and C as 1. A as 2, proliferative is, we have the follicular phase, A as 2. Option number C, B as 3 and C as 1. Option number 3 is the correct answer, people. Option number 3 is the correct answer. Okay, we're going to move ahead with question number 5. According to, this is a very important principle, Hugo de Veris, important concept, also asked in 2019. There's another video in 2019, the videos that I've made. Again, you have got in that Hugo de Veris is like most of the time asked. According to Hugo de Veris, the mechanism of evolution is multiple step mutation, minor mutation, phenotypic variation, or saltation. Okay, so the answer to this question is, I'm going to directly tell, is saltation. Saltation. Why so? Because saltation, Hugo de Veris used to believe that mutation causes species formation. Okay, species formation, and that is known as saltation. That means mutation, if it is going to happen, it is going to form species. Okay, now what is saltation exactly? It's a single step large mutation which results in the formation of new and advanced species. Okay, a single step mutation is going to happen and there's entirely formation of new and advanced species. So it was kind of that key Hugo de Veris was not that much in favor of the Darwinian principle, which was Darwinian principle. If we see, it says that minor heritable variation was mentioned by the Darwin. Okay, so Hugo de Veris is saltation, and saltation is nothing but a single step, only in one step a large mutation is going to happen, and then we have got the formation of a new and advanced species. Okay, so answer is going to be option number D. Next question. Okay, beautiful question, operon question. All of the following are parts of an operon except what is not the part of an operon? And promote an operator, a promoter, an enhancer, and structural gene. For this, I'm going to draw a diagram so that the picture is quite clear in your mind. We have the DNA. I am just drawing it to be broad because I don't want to confuse you people. DNA is there, and in that DNA, we have got some sections. In the first part, in the operon, we have got the regulatory genes. Regulatory genes. Next part in the DNA is the promoter region. Promoter. Then we have got the operator. Operator region. And then at the end we have got the structural genes. Structural genes. Okay. So if you see in the options, this is the structure of the operon I have drawn, in which it has got promoter, regulatory gene, operator, and structural gene. In this, I don't see an enhancer. So enhancer is not there. After transcription is going to happen from the operon, mRNA will be produced and different types of proteins are going to be produced from the process of translation. So this is it. We're going to move further ahead with the next question. Which of the following events does not occur in rough endoplasmic reticulum? Which of the events does not occur in rough endoplasmic reticulum? We have the options to be, people: protein folding, phospholipid synthesis, cleavage of single peptide, and protein glycosylation. Okay, so rough endoplasmic reticulum, when I talk about it, it is a cell is there and the cell organelle is there, and on this cell organelle which I have drawn rough endoplasmic reticulum, I have got proteins. So the proteins are nothing but the machinery, the protein factories, ribosomes. This is what I have drawn, are ribosomes, and this part is the endoplasmic reticulum. So if endoplasmic reticulum has the ribosome, it is nothing but RER, rough endoplasmic reticulum. Okay. As I said that proteins are involved, proteins are formed from ribosome. Lipids are not formed in the RER. It is formed in the SER. So lipids are formed in the SER. When I look at the options, we've got the option as protein folding, phospholipid synthesis, cleavage of single peptide, and protein glycosylation. So here, there's nothing related to protein here. Phospholipid, lipid is fat, which is not synthesized by rough endoplasmic reticulum. Instead, it is from the SER. A simple question. Scoring question, 4 marks. Next question. Which of these statements is incorrect? Which of these statements is incorrect? Okay, and the option given to us are: enzymes of TCA cycle are present in mitochondrial matrix. Second one, we have oxidative phosphorylation takes place in outer mitochondrial membrane. Glycolysis operates as soon as it is supplied with NAD that can pick up hydrogen atoms. And the last one is glycolysis occurs in cytosol. Okay. Out of the options which are given to us, let us just have a general discussion on oxidative phosphorylation. Occurs in people the inner mitochondrial membrane. Inner mitochondrial membrane. So if I see according to this concept, option number B is going to be incorrect. Okay, which is going to be our answer, because the thing that is asked here is we need to tell what is incorrect. So B, oxidative phosphorylation takes place in outer mitochondrial matrix, is absolutely wrong, but it is a correct answer. Enzymes of TCA cycles are present in the mitochondrial matrix. Exactly true. Glycolysis occurs in cytosol. Yes, true. Oxidative phosphorylation, glycolysis operates as long as it is supplied with NAD that are picked up by hydrogen atoms. Exactly. Glycolysis, people, is what? Glycolysis is, all these are energy production. All these are involved in energy production. So glycolysis is converted to pyruvate. Pyruvate, two molecules of pyruvate or pyruvic acid. Two molecules of pyruvate or pyruvic acid. And this glycolysis is a 10-step process. Glycolysis is also called as EMP pathway. EMP pathway is the other name for glycolysis. Okay, so our answer is oxidative phosphorylation takes place in outer mitochondrial matrix. It is the wrong answer, and that is a correct option. Next question, question number 9. Okay, select the incorrect match we need to select. Okay, and the option given to us are Lambrish chromosome, Polytene chromosome, Lambrish chromosome, Polytene chromosome, submetacentric chromosome and allosomes. On the other side, we have diploid bivalence, oocytes of amphibians, L-shaped chromosomes, and sex chromosomes. Okay, so here we have got some important concepts which I want to discuss is about the giant chromosome. Giant chromosome. Giant chromosome. Giant chromosomes. So giant in Hindi if I talk is nothing but bada chromosome. Okay, giant is big chromosomes. In this we have got two types. One is called as polytene and the other one is lamb brush chromosome. Okay, polytene chromosome, if we see, it is what is actually polytene. In this what happens is the chromosome segregation is not happening. Replication is happening, people, but segregation is not happening, because of which we have got attached arms of the chromosome, and this is called as polytene chromosome. Okay, and if we talk about the discoverer, polytene chromosome was discovered by Balbiani. Okay, and the term polytene was given by Kohler. This polytene chromosome is present in the salivary. Polytenes are present in the salivary glands of Drosophila. Okay, the fruit fly. Okay, the fruit fly. So in this the chromosome replicates but does not get separated, and they're rich in DNA, because see a lot of DNA is present in here, so it is rich in DNA. So if we see according to polytene, it is not present in the oocyte of amphibians, but definitely it is present in the salivary gland. So polytene, another name for polytene is people's salivary gland chromosomes also. Polytene is also called salivary gland chromosome. Let us talk something about the Lambrish chromosome. It was first seen by Fleming in the year 1882. Fleming in the year 1882, and this Lambrish looks like the brush of a lamb, and it has got structures like this. Okay, it has got loops in here, loops. It has got loops, and it is present, actually Lambrish chromosome is present in the oocyte of vertebrates. It is present in the oocyte of vertebrates, and it is also involved in lipid and yolk synthesis. Because it is present in oocyte, why is it present in oocyte? Because it is involved in lipid and yolk synthesis. Okay, submetacentric chromosome, as we all know the structure, it is L-shaped, in which it is not equal, arms are bigger and smaller. Allosomes are definitely called sex chromosomes, while the other chromosomes other than the sex chromosome are called as autosomes. Okay, so we have the incorrect match here to be polytene chromosomes, which are present in the oocyte of amphibians, is the incorrect match, which is the correct answer. Next question is, let us just see, which of the following terms describes human dentition? Okay, people, what is the meaning of dentition? The arrangement of teeth inside our mouth is the dentition. Okay, that is the reason why the doctors are called dentists. Okay, orthodonts. Yeah, so like let us look at the options. Thicodont, diphodont, homodont, pleurodont, diphodont, heterodont. Pleurodont, monophodont, homodont. Thicodont, diphodont, heterodont. Okay, so we need to see here, we human beings are heterodont. Okay, why are we heterodont? So I'm going to write here, we human beings are heterodont. Why are we heterodont? Because we have got incisors, canines, premolars and molars. Hetero means different. We have got different types of teeth which are present in our mouth. Okay, then we have got thicodont. That means Our teeth are embedded in the sockets. Okay, if there is no socket, then all our teeth will fall off. And we are also people diphodont. We're also diphodont. And the reason here is we have di means two, hetero means different. Di means two, we have got milk teeth and we have got a permanent teeth, temporary teeth and permanent teeth. Okay, so according to this, when I see option correct is going to be we are what are we? Heterodont, diphodont, and thicodont. Option number D is our correct answer. Okay, option number D is our correct answer. Now we need to move on to the next question in here. That is question number 11. Question number 11. I'm going to move further. Question 11. Nissel bodies are mainly composed of proteins and lipids, free ribosomes and RER, nucleic acids and SCR, DNA and RNA. Nissel bodies are mainly composed of what? Okay, so what exactly a Nissel body? It is present in one type of the cells in our body. It is present in the neurons. Okay, it is present in the neurons. This is the central nucleus, and surrounding to this, or in the cell body of the neuron, we have got some structures present, and these structures are nothing but Nissel bodies. Okay, and what are they involved into? They involved into uh, they are made up of rough endoplasmic reticulum and free ribosome. So it has got rough endoplasmic reticulum and free ribosome. They're composed mainly of RER and free ribosome. So they're called as Nissel bodies. Okay, we're going to move on to the next question. There was not much of explanation in this part. Next question is question number 12. 11, we are done with it. Question 12. Many ribosomes may associate with a single mRNA to form multiple copies of a polypeptide simultaneously. Such strings of ribosomes are referred to as polysome, nucleosome, plastidome, polyhedral bodies. Okay, for this we need to look at certain structures. Out of which we have the ribosomes, and when you look at the structure of ribosomes, the ribosomes are having two subunits in them. One is the large subunit and a small subunit. Large subunit, small subunit, large subunit, small subunit. Why am I drawing these many? Because we need to have a single mRNA and multiple copies of polypeptides are produced simultaneously. Many ribosomes are there. That is the reason why I have drawn ribosomes here. One ribosome, second ribosome, third ribosome. Okay. And in between them, we have got the mRNA. These all makes such string of ribosomes. This structure which I have drawn here, people, is called as polyribosome. Polyribosome, or it is also called as polysome. So answer here is going to be what? It is going to be polysome. So our correct answer is going to be polysome. And out of these, the peptides are going to be released out. Peptides will be released out here, one, then second, then third. Polypeptides are released out from this part. Okay. We have got some other options as well, and let us just also have a discussion about the other options, people. We are now going to discuss about nucleosome. Now, the DNA is long and the DNA needs the packaging. DNA is going to wrap itself on a structure called as histone proteins. The DNA is going to wrap itself into histone proteins. So the DNA comes, wraps itself, and then this structure which I've drawn here is called as nucleosome. Nucleosome. Okay. Next one is called as plastidome. Plastidome has something to do definitely with plastids. Okay. And plastids, everyone knows, is a cell organelle for the plant cells. Okay, cell organelle. What exactly is plastidome? It is a united form of plastids present in the eukaryotic cell. Okay, it's a united form of plastids. These plastids, when they're present in the united form, they are said to be plastidomes. And the last one is polyhedral bodies. The last one here, polyhedral bodies, and they, when we look at them, these organelles are involved in carbon dioxide, or it is involved in carbon fixation. Carbon fixation. As it is involved in carbon fixation, it is called as carboxysome. Carboxysome. So other name for polyhedral bodies is carboxysome. Okay, let us just move on to the next question here. Okay. So we have the, I'm going to read out the question now for you all. Match the items given in the column 1 with those in the column 2 and select the correct options given below. And select the correct options given below. Here we are given with, okay, tricuspid valve, bicuspid valve, semilunar valve. Between atrium, left ventricle, between right atrium, right ventricle, pulmonary artery, between right atrium and right ventricle. So we need to match them together so as to get our answers. Tricuspid valve, if we see, okay, tricuspid valve is present between right atrium and right ventricle. Tricuspid valve is present between right atrium and right ventricle. It's a direct question, no much explanation into it. Bicuspid valve is present between left atrium and left ventricle. Bicuspid present between left atrium and left ventricle. And we have the semilunar valve to be present between right ventricle and pulmonary artery. So our correct answer, if we see, is going to be A3, B1 and C2. Option number A is our correct answer. That is question 13. We move on to the next question, which is going to be our question number 14. Yes, definitely. Question 14. If you are liking the video, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel, don't forget. And also visit our Telegram channel. All the details are there in the description. And I'm also going to provide you the link in the description box for all the previous videos so that you can go and watch all of them. But you need to finish this video first. Go watch those videos. After you're done watching all these videos, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, share the content, and also visit our Telegram channel, which is of the same name as my YouTube channel, that is Sana's Biochemistry. Don't forget. Okay. Question number 14 is match the items in column number 1 with column 2. Tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume, and residual volume. Okay, on the other side, we're given with certain values which are 2500 to 3000 ml, 1100 ml to 1200 ml, 500 to 550 ml, 1000 to 1100 ml. Okay, so first of all, we need to understand the terms, and simultaneously we are going to look at the measurements as well. So first of all, we need to understand, people, what is tidal volume. Okay, tidal volume is the volume of air inspired or expired during a normal respiration. So the normal respiration, when we do normal respiration that we do, the volume of air which we inhale or exhale normal in the normal breathing is called as tidal volume, TV, and the volume is actually 500 to 550 ml approximately. Then we've got the next term to be inspiratory reserve volume. In this we have additional volume of air a person can inspire by a forcible inspiration. I'm breathing heavy. Okay, I'm taking in more of oxygen. That is, I am doing a forcible or forcefully I am inspiring the volume. Okay, I'm taking the air inside forcefully. Okay, so this is additional volume of air that the person can take inside its lung, and the value is somewhere around 2500 to 2500 to 3000 is the volume, 3000 ml. Then we have got expiratory reserve volume, which is similar to inspiratory reserve volume. When I'm doing a forceful, I am pushing out the air from my lungs and from my nose. I am forcefully pushing out some air outside. Okay, so that is the additional volume which is not done as a normal condition. That is called as expiratory reserve volume, and the value is somewhere near to this one. It is, yep, this one. And we have got the last one as residual volume. Okay, so you continuously do the breathing process, but there is certain volume of air that remains in the lungs even when you're doing a forcible expiration. Even when I'm throwing the air outside very forcefully from my body, but still there is going to be some air left inside the lungs, and that is called as the residual volume. And we have got the value to be the left one, 111 to 112 ml. The correct answer, if we go and see the matching, is option number 4th. Okay, option number 4th is the correct answer. Let us move on to the last question, is which of the following options correctly represents the lung condition in asthma and emphysema respectively. What is asthma? What is emphysema? In this video, it is not possible for us to go for a detailed, explanation. But around the world, there are 3 million people that suffer from asthma, and around 250,000 people die each year with asthma. Okay, in that you have got a respiratory problem. Okay, definitely asthma and emphysema, respiratory lung diseases. Asthma is an inflammatory disease of the lung. Okay, so inflammatory disease of the lung, when I say inflammatory disease of the lung, so asthma is what? Inflammatory disease of the lungs, that is the bronchioles. And emphysema is what? It is definitely going to be decreased respiratory service. Sometimes you have to use the brains as well. When I know it's an inflammatory disease, and I see the option here, inflammatory, and there is no option matching to it, because I'm talking about asthma, and the correct option, first one, is asthma respectively it is given. So asthma in inflammation of bronchioles, and emphysema decreased respiratory surface. If you need a detailed video on emphysema and asthma, you comment down in the comment section, I'll take care of that. So we're done with the 15 questions for the day, and thank you everyone who has watched us till the end of the video. And I'm going to end the video here and meet you with the day 10 video, which I'll be uploading on my channel. And you can also get the playlist from NEET 2020, which is there on our channel. Haven't subscribed to the channel, please do, don't forget, so that we kind of work more enthusiastically. And I'm going to end the video here. Bye bye everyone, take care, meet you in the next video. Don't forget to watch all the videos of our NEET series. Bye bye, take care.